SoFi has closed at 22.75, bringing us back within the range of 22.42 and 23.76. And today we've had an attempt at that $25 level, getting right back to that zone, tapping exactly around 24.91. And we see sellers really gain that control, guys, bringing us all the way back down to that 22.75. We see a very, very sharp rejection here, engulfing the last around 4 days of price action. So very extreme move to the downside. Last time we tested this zone, guys, we got a very big move to the downside as well, showing that that $25 level is still holding up as some very sharp resistance. Now, should we expect a bounce at that 22.42, or is it time that sellers bring us back below to this range of 20.73 and 22.42, trying to test that support of 20.73 once more before trying to find that big pullback? All right, turning to the weekly, guys, the main thing that we point out is that we're at a point where in the past, guys, that $25 level was a very stubborn resistance marker, kind of hitting that, coming back down, trying to get back to that level, cannot, and we flush. Once again, coming back up to that zone, trying to hit around that zone, cannot, and we flush even further into around a 2.5 year kind of chop phase. Price not doing all too much here, forming a long-term cup and handle like pattern. This creating the handle here, finding that bounce at 852, and then now in this overextended run that we currently see ourselves in, retesting that $25 level. But once again, guys, like in the past, it holds up as some pretty harsh resistance, kind of dip back down, but buyers stand their ground. Still in a very healthy overextended movement. All right, guys, so on the daily chart, this last day price action sticks out like a sore thumb, like we were talking about earlier in the video. Now, the main thing that we want to look out for is that support zone of 22.42. We see that we kind of find that support right here. Once we get over that level, right, we kind of chop between that 20.70 and 22.42 for a bit. Having that as our resistance turns into support. And what we get is a very nice move to the upside. So kind of prematurely, we don't see a lot of indicators that we're going to get a very sharp spike up, but we gap up and we test that $25 level, that being very harsh resistance, which plummets us back downwards within that range, kind of chop between that, find a bit of an ascending kind of profile. And then we see a nice green wide bar out of that zone, showing that the buyers are ready for more and they are strong in this movement. They've claimed that resistance as support. Very, very nice movement to the upside. And that shifts momentum, guys. Once you see a very nice green wide bar like that, that's showing that the buyers are healthy here and they are confident with their movement. A lot of good buyer pressure here as we kind of enter and try to test that previous high that we saw here. So we got that movement to 25, sharp rejection, try to get above that again. Got that movement to 23.76, sharp rejection. And then coming up this time, guys, we see a very nice movement up into that exact zone. Try to get above that, but we see another rejection, although we do hold higher than last time, so we aren't conforming to a descending pattern. We finally get above that and make a new high from the previous high. Then we kind of dip back down, find that ascending support once again, and then that leads us to another retest today of around that $25 level. Not quite, but very close. Being exact, that 24.91. But then once we test that, guys, it just breaks through a lot of zones. It broke through that previous high we got, broke through that second previous high that we got, and then breaking through that ascending support profile. So very likely that price comes back down to that 22.42 as that held up as past resistance, now turned into support. See if that can hold as support. If that can't, guys, very likely that we get back within this chop range of that 20.73 and 20.42. Now, if this is anything like past price history, although that was a very long time ago, guys, it is pretty likely that we see a little bit of a pullback here, right? We've tested that $25 zone. We've tested it once again after a bit of time in a nice ascending profile and just a very sharp rejection with sellers engulfing the last few candles of price action and showing that they are very strong at that resistance marker. So I think it's very likely that we get back under this 22.42 and kind of trend down to the bottom of this zone, trying to find that 20.73 as support here, possibly chopping between that. I mean, if this 20.73 can hold up once again, as it's been an extremely strong support level, that'd be a good sign for the buyers as we could trend back up, that being a smaller pullback given this overall extended movement. But seeing such a sharp rejection like we saw today, guys, it would not be a giant surprise that we kind of find ourselves in a bit of a pullback motion here. That 1845 is definitely a level you want to watch. That being the top of this descending channel that we got into, very much could be a nice point where we try to find a bounce there if we do end up breaking that 20.73. Is that going to happen? Not necessarily. We have that close support marker where we could be holding up. And this could be a quick correction from the buyers, right? Bouncing off that 22.42 and quickly correcting, showing that they are strong and holding this battle. We are predicting if we do fall below this level. So still anything's possible. Buyers could buy right back up here, or they could even buy right back up at that 20.73. But given how overextended we are, guys, it wouldn't be a shock to finally see that bit of a pullback here, bringing us back down to 18.45, that being the top of this descending channel, as we were very volatile in this kind of marker here, guys, this being the handle of that long-term cup and handle as well. That being the rough neckline area, we were really chopping back and forth. Buyers pushed it up, sellers pushed it all the way down, buyers pushed it up, and then we held kind of tight here, and then we broke out very nicely, and that leads us to that very buyer-dominated move to the upside. Buyers in that ultimate full control. And then that brings us to this choppy range that we were pointing out, and that leads us to that big move at 225 the first time. Rebound quite nicely. That holding up is very nice support, trending upwards, and then retesting that exact zone. So anything's possible, guys, as long as we're still within this rough zone of 2073 and 25. It's definitely possible that they do get another retest, but it's also not out of the question that we finally see a pullback within this overall overextended movement to the upside. But I think SoFi is still very strong and very bullish for the long-term picture here, guys. Even if we did get a pullback to that 2073 and breaking that furthermore to that 1845, finding nice support here, that wouldn't be a big deal for the buyers, as we are very much in an overextended movement to the upside. And that would be a smaller retracement comparative to this overall move. But as of right now, we still are in a big battle between the buyers and the sellers. Lots of volatility picking up here, so it's definitely possible that the buyers find their movement before it's too late. All right, guys, on the hourly, we see a better perspective of getting right back to that zone, right? We find ourselves in a little bit of a descending pattern after that previous high that we made. And then we find that ascending support once more. We see buyers step in here, and then they find that momentum to push stock up to around that $25 level. That's where we see that very sharp rejection. We see that buyers try to step in once they meet up with that ascending support, but they just don't have enough life in them at that point after getting that sharp rejection. And then we break that ascending support. So extremely likely that we test that 2242. That's where price is headed, right? If that can't hold, look for the bottom of this range of 2073. And then that pullback isn't exactly what we're predicting. We still are bullish on SoFi, but wouldn't be surprised to finally see a little bit of a pullback here after kind of rejecting at that point twice now. Now, if the buyers are still in the game, guys, we could be seeing a mirroring movement. You know, buyers find that momentum around this level and push stock right back up, kind of mimicking what the sellers did to them, right? If we still are in this strong uptrend, that's what you could see. If not, guys, definitely likely to hit that 2073, seeing if that very nice support level will hold. SoFi is in a pretty interesting spot here. We did see a sharp rejection today after hitting around that $25 level. Definitely wouldn't shock me to see a little bit of a pullback here, as we have been very overextended with SoFi, and we have had a few tests of around that $25 level. Today being the more, prominent test, as we were right at that range. So overall standpoint, we do remain long-term bullish on the stock. I think SoFi still is very nice for the long term. Even if we did pull back here a bit, still would be very nice for the bulls. And for the short term, I think that we do retest that bottom support level of this general chop range, that being that 2073. And if that can't hold up, I think we would find some very nice and strong support at that 1845. But yeah, guys, look for that quick correction. That's always a possibility. The buyers quickly correcting that movement before it turns into a sharper move to the downside. That's all I got for you guys. If you enjoyed and want to see more SoFi content, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know your price predictions in the comments below, short and long term. As always, trade smart. I will see you all in the next one.